Imagine you've spent years and literally billions of dollars creating a drug that could save lives. It's right there at the finish line. And then it just stops. Today, we're going to talk about a problem that can cost millions. And believe it or not, it has absolutely nothing to do with the science. So let's ask that again. After all that work, all that investment in a medical breakthrough, how do you bring the whole thing to a screeching halt right before it can help anyone? Yep, you heard that right, with one tiny mistake buried somewhere in thousands of pages of documents. It sounds completely insane, but this is the fragile, high-stakes reality of getting drugs approved right now. And this, right here, just visualizes the problem perfectly. We all know the science is expensive. Billions of dollars, no surprise there. But look at the other side. The paperwork, just the statistical documentation, can cost tens of millions of dollars for a single drug. It's this massive, hidden bottleneck that no one talks about. Okay, so let's dig into that. Section 1, the billion-dollar bottleneck. We're going to put some real numbers on this thing to show you the true scale of what we're dealing with. So on average, to get one new drug from a lab into your local pharmacy, it costs a staggering $2.6 billion. And that number covers everything, the research, the clinical trials, all the failures along the way. It's a huge, huge investment. But now, get this. Buried inside that giant cost, up to $25 million can be spent on just one piece of the puzzle, getting the statistical paperwork ready for regulators. Not the science, not the trials, the documentation. That is an insane amount of money for what should just be the final step.
So the big question is, why? Why on earth does it cost so much? To figure that out, we have to go inside what you could call the manual maze. This is the before picture of how things are done.
Take a look at this. This is how some of our most brilliant, highly paid scientists are spending their days. Biostatisticians, the people who are supposed to be analyzing all this complex trial data, are spending up to 70% of their time not on analysis, but on manually copying and pasting data and formatting documents. It's just wild. And when you rely on people doing all this work by hand, it just creates this domino effect of problems. Reports are formatted differently every time, which confuses regulators. The process is just begging for human error. And trying to trace one number back to where it came from, good luck. It's a total nightmare of version control. And here's the direct result of all that manual work. Somewhere between 40 and 60% of these statistical reports have errors that need to be fixed. Think about that. It's basically a coin toss whether the paperwork for a billion-dollar drug is wrong. And that, of course, leads to delays, questions, and maybe even a flat-out rejection. Okay, so that's the grim reality. But what if we could just escape that maze entirely? This is where we get to the solution, the after state. And here, automation kicks off what you can really call a one-click revolution. Just look at this comparison. It's night and day. A process that used to take 6 to 12 months is suddenly 60 to 80% faster. That crazy error rate, it drops by up to 90%. And that $10 to $25 million price tag, it's replaced by a system where you essentially just click a button. This is what happens when you take human error out of the documentation process. Now, getting the paperwork right isn't just about saving a bit of time or fixing typos. It creates this powerful ripple effect. It completely changes a company's ability to get drugs to the people who need them. It basically becomes a market access machine. First up, speed. When you submit clean, error-free, standardized documents the first time, you can slash the approval timeline. We're talking about getting a life-saving drug to patients 6 to 18 months sooner than your competitors who are still lost in that manual maze. And what happens when your paperwork gets rejected because of an error? It's a disaster. The cost to fix all the issues and resubmit everything can be up to $40 million. Automation helps you avoid that catastrophic expense from ever happening in the first place. But here it is. This is the big one. Getting to market just one single year earlier can mean up to $500 million in extra revenue for a successful drug. This isn't just about saving money on paperwork. It's about fundamentally changing the financial success of a drug's entire existence. So when you can speed things up this much and generate this kind of value, you start to realize something. This technology stops being just another tool. It becomes the new mission-critical standard for the whole industry. And the value proposition is super clear for everyone involved. For a small biotech startup, this tech levels the playing field, letting them compete with the giants. For big pharma, the return on investment is just massive. We're talking savings of over $100 million a year. And for the research orgs in the middle, it just means they can deliver faster, better work to their clients. And that's really the core idea here. Automation like this isn't a nice-to-have anymore. In a world with more regulatory pressure and intense competition, it becomes non-discretionary. It is essential infrastructure you absolutely need to have. This quote from the source material just nails it. It says, every upstream discovery ultimately requires regulatory-compliant documentation, creating a mandatory checkpoint that captures value from the entire discovery process. Think about that. It doesn't matter how great your science is, it has to pass through this one mandatory gateway. So we end up with this question. This whole thing isn't just about efficiency or revenue numbers on a spreadsheet. We're talking about delays that are measured in fortunes, yes, but also in human lives. So when the technology finally exists to solve this problem, to get medicine to people faster and more safely, the real question becomes, what is the true cost of doing nothing?